The anime begins by showing a high school girl named Nori Sakurada who rushes home because she has to prepare dinner and take care of her younger brother, Jun Sakurada, while their parents are working overseas. Jun is a middle school student who withdrew from society after he was outed and bullied by his school peers for being a dress designer. Since then, he has become irritated whenever something related to school is brought up and sinks into a depression when pressured on the topic. Reluctant to leave the house, Jun always buys things online on the internet. In addition, he has an interest in all things mystical and fantasy, whose existence is difficult to accept rationally. He often orders unorthodox items online and returns them before the deadline ends. It was solely done by Jun because he quickly got bored of something. Jun saw a mysterious letter on his desk and happily signed it, thinking it would bring something special into his life. Not long after, Nori delivered several packages containing items that Jun bought online. Seeing her brother, who always locked himself in his room, Nori took the initiative to invite him to go outside and do fun things. However, he gets angry and throws his sister out of his room violently after she mentions school. Nori looks sad because Jun always treats her like she is someone else. Even though she is his sister and the only person who cares for him the most, she is always there to take care of him when their parents travel abroad. In fact, they never ate together after Jun decided to always lock himself in his room. On the other hand, Jun, who was about to return to his place in front of the computer, accidentally tripped over a wooden box that Nori had brought. Because the wooden box looked quite good, Jun opened the box and looked surprised to find a doll in the shape of a young girl wearing a Victorian-era Gothic-style dress. Besides the doll, Jun finds a key that he uses to wind up the doll, and surprisingly, the doll suddenly comes to life and immediately slaps him. The doll then introduces herself as Shinku, the fifth doll of the Rosen Maiden. At first, Jun thought of Shinku as an ordinary stuffed toy. However, he soon realized that Shinku wasn't really a doll and instead resembled a human girl. Shinku then mentioned a mysterious letter previously signed by Jun, in which the letter turned out to be a contract between him and Shinku, although the type of contract was not written in detail. Jun then tries to find the letter he had previously kept in a drawer, but apparently the letter had disappeared from there. Jun and Shinku immediately got into an argument because Jun thought that he had been tricked until finally, Shinku felt danger coming. At the same time, suddenly, Jun's window glass shattered, and in front of them, a clown doll appeared, staring fiercely at Jun. Shinku tells Jun that he will soon die in this place because the clown doll came to kill him. However, he must swear allegiance to her if he doesn't want to die. Upon hearing that, Jun thought that Shinku was just trying to scare him until the clown doll managed to slash his clothes with just a card. Jun tried to save himself, but the door to his room was suddenly locked, and his sister didn't come even though he screamed for help. Out of urgency, Jun was finally willing to swear allegiance to Shinku, where he was then asked to kiss the ring of roses wrapped around Shinku's finger. Shortly afterward, the rose ring miraculously moved to Jun's finger, and Shinku said he had become her medium. She then resurrects the two dolls in Jun's room to help her to defeat the clown doll. They then engaged in a brief battle with the clown doll until Shinku finally managed to defeat the doll with her power. Jun, still trying to understand what really happened, suddenly felt weak and dizzy. Shinku then insinuated him as a weak man because he was already feeling weak just by using a little of his strength. Shinku then explained that Jun became like that because she had used his power to defeat the clown doll, and as long as he wore the rose ring, he was the medium that gave power to her. Not only that, Jun has sworn allegiance to her, which means that he has sworn to protect her and become her servant. After that, Shinku asked Jun to bring her some tea. He couldn't help but obey her request and rushed to the kitchen, where he found his school uniform on the table, neat and clean. Nori, who just came home, seemed surprised to see Jun in the kitchen. She regrets Jun's decision to drop out of school and hopes he will return to school one day. Hearing his sister bringing up school again, Jun scolds Nori and asks her to leave him alone, just like everyone else, including their parents, who are more concerned with work than family. At the same time, Jun suddenly panicked when Shinku suddenly appeared next to Nori. He rushed to hide Shinku and told Nori to make some tea. Jun and Shinku then returned to his room, where Shinku then took out her own cup from the box. While tasting Nori's tea, Shinku points out that Nori served the tea the wrong way. However, Shinku can feel her kindness in the tea, which indicates that Nori really cares for Jun with all her heart. Hearing this, Jun then tasted the tea made by his sister and did not deny that it tasted better than before. After saying that, Nori suddenly entered Jun's room and accidentally saw Jun, who was drinking tea with Shinku. She thought Shinku was a doll, but Shinku then spoke to her. Unexpectedly, Nori turns out to be completely unsuspecting of Shinku, who can talk and thinks she's cute. But Jun kicked Nori out of his room because he didn't want his sister to misunderstand him. Meanwhile, in another place, a girl named Tomoe Kashiwaba also has a doll that can talk like Shinku. The doll is Hina Ichigo, commonly called Hina, the sixth doll of the Rosen Maiden. Unlike Shinku, who often treats Jun as her servant, Hina seems to be close friends with Tomoe. However, Hina does not realize that Tomoe has been gradually becoming weak due to their contract with each other because she is always sad that Tomoe never has time to play with her. The scene then switches to Nori, who's trying to befriend Shinku. Although Shinku always avoids physical contact and often treats her as her servant, Nori doesn't seem to mind it because she thinks Shinku is a very adorable doll. On the other side, Jun, who looked astonished when he saw Shinku could easily repair the glass in his bedroom window with her magical power, then asked her how she did that. However, she is reluctant to explain her power in detail and leaves the room because she wants to drink a cup of tea. Not long after, Tomoe, Jun's classmate, came to Jun's house to say some things about school. Nori thanked Tomoe for taking the time to come to Jun's house and invited her in. At first, Tomoe was reluctant to stop by and intended to go home soon. However, she suddenly felt dizzy and almost collapsed, so Nori asked her to rest inside the house to recover. On the other hand, Shinku sensed something odd about Tomoe and openly asked her name. She noticed that Tomoe wore a rose ring on her finger, which indicated that Tomoe had entered into a contract with one of the Rosen Maiden. Nori panicked because Shinku suddenly appeared in front of Tomoe, then tried to trick Tomoe by saying that Shinku was the latest action figure model. When Tomoe was about to leave, she accidentally crossed paths with Jun, instantly making him think back to school and his schoolmates, who often bullied him. Meanwhile, worried about Tomoe's condition, which looks weak, as if her strength has been drained, Shinku then asks Holly, her artificial spirit, to follow Tomoe, who is about to go home. Arriving home, Hina immediately confronted Tomoe for coming home late and thought she had lied. Hina then asked Tomoe to play with her, but Tomoe chose to fulfill her mother's call, who asked her to go downstairs. Upon seeing Tomoe's attitude as if she's trying to stay away from her, Hina becomes angry and snaps at Tomoe. Hina, who has a past trauma that is quite painful because she is always abandoned and alone, uses her power to bring Tomoe into the mirror so that they are always together. Holly, who witnessed the incident, rushed back to Jun's house to inform Shinku. After knowing what happened to Tomoe, Shinku asks Nori to take her to a large mirror because she intends to save Tomoe. Because Jun is depressed again after meeting his classmate who reminds him of his trauma in the past, Shinku asks Nori not to tell Jun if she will go to the mirror world. Even though she is in the mirror world, Tomoe can hear her mother, who keeps calling her, while Hina continues to invite her to play, regardless of Tomoe's weakening condition. Not long after, Shinku finally arrived in the mirror world and immediately challenged Hina to fight with her in the Alice game, a competition to collect Rosa Mystica, a magical item possessed by Rosen Maiden dolls that makes them come alive and have souls like humans. When Shinku was involved in a fierce battle against Hina, Jun felt something strange in the rose ring on his finger, so he rushed to find Shinku's whereabouts. He then entered the warehouse and found Nori standing facing a large mirror. Seeing Nori there, Jun chose to leave instead because he didn't talk to anyone else, including his sister. In the meantime, Nori, knowing that Jun doesn't want to talk to her, tells him that Shinku entered the big mirror to save Tomoe and hasn't returned. In the mirror world, Shinku finally managed to corner Hina and asked her to see Tomoe's state. How shocked Hina was when she found Tomoe lying helpless because Hina used her power carelessly and did not realize that her actions had a bad impact on Tomoe's body condition, which is her medium. Hina regrets what she did to Tomoe and cancels the contract to save Tomoe's life. After her defeat, Hina brought Tomoe back home, asking Shinku to take her Rosa Mystica. But Shinku refused because if she took Hina's Rosa Mystica, Hina would become an ordinary lifeless doll. Shinku then left Hina alive and made her servant. Meanwhile, Jun, trying to find a way to get into the mirror, suddenly his body bounced back, and he found Shinku, who had come out of the mirror with Hina. Shinku then tells Jun and Nori that Hina will live with them from now on because she is her servant. Unlike Nori, who doesn't mind Hina's presence which she thinks is very adorable, Jun is even more tormented because Shinku and Hina often fuss in his room with their quarrels caused by trivial things. One morning, Nori makes breakfast for Shinku and Hina, but Hina doesn't like the food because it doesn't suit her taste. Nori then asked Hina to draw a picture of her favorite food and promised to buy it after she got home from school. Hina then meets Jun, mentions school, which irritates him, and yells at her. Jun is even angrier when he finds a scribble on the floor made by Hina to pass the time while waiting for Nori to come home from school. He then finds Hina's drawing of her favorite food. Even though he knew the name of the food based on the picture she made, Jun, who was still annoyed, snapped at Hina and told her to buy the food herself. Hearing Jun's words, Hina felt very sad and missed Tomoe, who always treated her well. Hina actually wanted to go back to Tomoe. Still, she had already canceled her contract, so she couldn't go anywhere else because Shinku had shared her power with Hina, so Hina wouldn't survive if she was away from Shinku and Jun. Feeling sorry for Hina, Jun finally ventured out of the house to buy Hina's favorite food. After that, Shinku and Hina, looking for Jun's whereabouts throughout the house, went into the bathroom and were suddenly locked from the outside. Realizing that something was strange, Shinku tried to get out of the bathroom through the window and went back into the house, where she found many black feathers scattered on the floor. Shinku discovered that all of this was the work of Suiginto, the first Rosen maiden with black wings, which she used for mobility and offensive purposes. Shinku had even discovered that Suiginto was the mastermind behind causing the clown doll to attack June. Shinku, who was trying to protect Hina, then tried to attack Suiginto with her power. But Suiginto could use her black wings as a shield and protect against Shinku's attacks until finally choosing to go through the large mirror in the storage warehouse. Meanwhile, June still hasn't found Hina's favorite food and tries to keep looking for it in a shop near his school. He regrets leaving the house because he becomes panicky and anxious when he sees his schoolmates. When he finally managed to enter the shop, June met Tomoe, who was there to buy Hina's favorite food. He then asks her what she thinks about the Rosen maiden doll, and she tells him about how she got the doll. Tomoe then said she actually felt worried when she discovered Hina would live with June. However, after seeing June willing to leave the house to buy Hina's favorite food, Tomoe was relieved, leaving Hina to him. Arriving at the house, June sneaked in so that no one would notice that he left the house to buy Hina's favorite food. However, he was caught by Nori, who had just come home from school, and Hina, who had been looking for his whereabouts. Seeing June, who came with her favorite foods, Hina became excited and thanked him for caring about her. As an expression of gratitude, she even served him a cup of tea and hugged him while laughing happily. Sometime later, June and the others are surprised by the appearance of another Rosen maiden doll named Sui Seiseki, who seems to have had an unpleasant incident with her master because she dislikes humans, especially boys like June. In fact, she openly shows her distaste for June until she gets a reprimand from Nori for throwing food at June. The next day, Sui Seiseki reluctantly uses her power to take June and the Rosen maiden dolls to June's dreamland and explains that the state of the dreamland reflects what is in one's heart. Because June often feels hopeless and depressed, the atmosphere in his dreamland becomes gloomy and tense. In addition, many things scare June around him, such as flower plants that represent his teachers and his schoolmates and can talk, as well as sheets of exam paper that pile up and form a giant monster that tries to attack him. Sui Seiseki then tells June that the world is his dream, and he can do anything in the dream, including defeating the monster. When June is fed up with his gloomy and unpleasant dream world, Sui Seiseki then shows June's soul tree and reveals that he has skills in gardening, as well as taking care of the human's soul tree that grows in their dreams. When they were about to return to the real world by flying towards the door, Sui Seiseki almost fell, but June grabbed her hand and saved her. Since then, Sui Seiseki's assessment of June has finally changed, and she begins to think he is a good boy. Afterward, Nori, who was at school, was surprised by a declaration of love from a student at her school. Having no romantic feelings for the young man, she politely refuses his declaration of love and rushes home. Due to a small incident that makes Hina sulk, Nori asks June to persuade Hina and threatens not to make dinner if she is still sulking when she comes home from shopping. However, their attempts to persuade Hina end up in a heated argument that causes chaos in the house and makes Nori furious to find the house in such a state of disarray. Even so, she forgave them all and made a delicious dinner for them. One day, June and the Rosen maiden dolls start their day by watching their favorite TV series, which has a scary scene. Shinku and the dolls looked so scared, but not so with June, who thought the scene looked ridiculous. While Shinku clung to June for not daring to be alone, Sui Seiseki continued to be by Hina's side for the same reason. When they were about to go to the bathroom, they overheard a voice coming from the storage shed. Even though they were very scared, they dared to check into the warehouse to find out the source of the sound. Not finding anything strange there, Sui Seiseki and Hina then left the warehouse. But then, something appeared inside the big mirror, making both of them scream very loudly. Shinku and June, who heard the scream, rushed to the warehouse and found Sui Seiseki lying helpless, while Hina had been captured by Suiginto, who then brought Hina to the mirror world. Seeing this, Shinku chased after Suiginto along with June and Sui Seiseki. They enter the world of Suiginto, which is much dreary and sinister than June's dream world, where countless dolls and toys have been broken. Shinku explained that Suiginto had always been very ambitious to win the Alice game, so she did everything she could, even by using dolls or other toys. Suiginto then appeared while carrying the unconscious Hina. June told Suiginto to return Hina to them, but she refused and instead asked Shinku to hand over her Rosa Mystica. Because Shinku firmly refused the request, they got into a fierce battle with Suiginto. Surprisingly, the damaged puppets, including the clown doll that attacked June, protected Shinku and June from Suiginto's attacks. Even the clown doll was willing to sacrifice itself until its body was torn apart. Suiginto then grabbed Shinku and tried to torture her, but June did not stay silent and tried to help Shinku, so he accidentally gave her such great power. With that power, Shinku finally broke free and launched a counterattack at Suiginto. Realizing that Shinku became hard to beat after getting the great power of her medium, Suiginto decided to withdraw from the fight. After finally returning home, Shinku seemed devastated by the state of the clown doll, whose body was torn apart as it tried to protect her. Seeing this, Jun took the needle, thread, and sewing equipment needed to repair the clown doll. He is skilled at sewing and can repair the clown doll until it is as whole as it used to be. Shinku and the Rosen maidens looked astonished to see Jun, so skilled at sewing that the clown doll finally regained its soul. Shinku then praised Jun and thanked him. However, when they were about to leave the place, Shinku suddenly collapsed unconscious. Because Shinku didn't wake up, Jun became very worried and tried various ways to make her wake up, one of which was to put himself in danger because if something happened to him, it would also affect Shinku. Jun then tried to find information about the Rosen maiden dolls on the internet but found nothing until finally he joined an information provider forum and asked the members of the forum about the Rosen maiden dolls. While waiting for an answer, Jun asked Sui Seiseki about what the Rosen maiden dolls experienced while asleep. She said they usually dream about every experience they had with their medium. Not long after, Jun finally got a reply to his question, where one of the forum members told him there was a book discussing the Rosen maiden dolls in the library. The next day, Jun ventures into the city library, but the book about the Rosen maiden dolls turns out to have been donated to Jun's school library. Hearing this, Jun was very surprised because he went back into depression whenever he thought about his school. However, Jun still tried to go to his school, although in the end, he was still unable to step foot to enter there and chose to return home. Arriving home, Jun even feels worse when he finds out Hina is unconscious. He then locked himself in his room, sinking deeper and deeper into a slump with mixed feelings raging in his heart. Nori, who was very worried about Jun's condition, tried to help him, but he kicked his sister violently. Nori didn't mind Jun's attitude towards her because she was used to it. However, she couldn't let him down and let Shinku and Hina stay asleep like that, so Nori asked Jun to think back to his moments with Shinku, hoping to make him aware of not neglecting those closest to him. After listening to his sister's words, Jun thought back to Shinku and how she had brought about a change in him, so he finally realized how important she was in his life. The next day, Jun ventured to come to school early to avoid being caught by his schoolmates. Unexpectedly, he ran into Tomoe, who was on duty cleaning the classroom, so she came early. Jun finally tells everything that happened to Tomoe, and she is willing to help him find a book about the Rosen maiden dolls in the school library. After finding the book and discovering all the information about the Rosen maiden dolls, Jun and Tomoe finally found a way to wake Shinku and Hina by summoning their artificial spirits. Having not had time to look for further information, Jun was almost caught by a teacher, so Tomoe helped him escape from there. Before leaving, Jun apologized to Tomoe for involving her. Arriving home, Jun and Sui Seiseki opened Shinku's box. They summoned Shinku's artificial spirit, Holly, who miraculously floated into Shinku's body through the keyhole and finally managed to make Shinku regain consciousness. Seeing a black feather floating out from inside Shinku's body, Jun knew that Suiginto was the mastermind behind all of this. He looks so relieved and happy when Shinku finally wakes up, although she slaps him in the face and says he is too slow just to figure out how to wake her up. Shortly after Shinku woke up from her sleep, Hina, who had fallen asleep from exhaustion, finally woke up because she shared her power with Shinku. Elsewhere, Suiginto is seen observing Shinku and the others through a broken mirror, where she is then determined to make Shinku suffer. Sometime later, while playing hide-and-seek with Jun and Shinku, Hina and Sui Seiseki then entered the warehouse to hide. Not long after, the large mirror in the warehouse displayed the past events of Sui Seiseki and her twin sister, So Seiseki, who lived in the house of an old man named Motoharu. Seeing a flash of the past that she desperately wanted to forget, Sui Seiseki again felt a deep sadness because her twin sisters preferred to live with Motoharu, who had considered So Seiseki a substitute for Kazuki, his late son who died in an accident. Sui Seiseki suddenly became gloomy and quiet when Jun and Shinku discovered their presence hiding in the warehouse. Jun seemed surprised that Sui Seiseki had suddenly turned quiet. Hina was about to tell him what really happened, but Sui Seiseki immediately told Hina to be quiet and not tell Jun and Shinku anything. Even so, Shinku realized that something had indeed happened to Sui Seiseki. The scene then switches and shows So Seiseki living with Motoharu, who owns a watch shop, and his wife, who is in a coma. When So Seiseki was alone, Suiginto came to see her and said she was willing to help her get her power that could supply nourishment to souls and memories, which So Seiseki would later use to heal Motoharu's wife. Meanwhile, Sui Seiseki still looks gloomy and quiet because she is reminded of her twin sister, who was actually forced by Motoharu to replace his late son. Nori tried to comfort Sui Seiseki by making her favorite dish, but she didn't budge and instead just left the table. Seeing Sui Seiseki's attitude, which was different from usual, Shinku concluded that something had happened to her, so she asked Hina about it. Because Shinku kept urging her, Hina finally told about the flashing past of Sui Seiseki and her twin sisters in the big mirror. That night, while everyone was sleeping, Sui Seiseki woke up from her sleep and walked towards the large mirror, where she met Suiginto. Suiginto then shows So Seiseki's life at Motoharu's house after her twin sister left her. In this picture, So Seiseki's life seems so apprehensive that Sui Seiseki intends to save her twin sisters, especially after getting provocation by Suiginto. Sui Seiseki then entered the mirror to go where her twin sisters were and tried to persuade So Seiseki to come with her. But because she refused, Sui Seiseki couldn't help but take her twin sisters by force. In the mirror world, Sui Seiseki again tries to persuade her twin sisters to leave Motoharu and live with her at Jun's house. But So Seiseki refused her request, even after Sui Seiseki said that Shinku and Hina also lived at Jun's house and could live together. After that, the twin sisters got involved in a dispute which led to a fierce battle in which both used each other's magical powers. In the end, So Seiseki remained firm in her determination to live with Motoharu, so Sui Seiseki decided to leave her twin sister. At the same time, Motoharu, who was very shocked because he couldn't find So Seiseki anywhere, was approached by Suiginto, who tried to instigate him so that he was willing to do something according to her plan. When So Seiseki returns to Motoharu's house, she finds that something has happened to Motoharu because he suddenly behaved strangely with her. Meanwhile, Sui Seiseki, who had returned to Jun's house, was crying in frustration because her twin sisters preferred to remain loyal to her master even though they were often mistreated. Jun, who heard Sui Seiseki's cry, then woke up and asked how she was. But she instead scolded him while hugging him so that Shinku and Hina, who had just woken up, thought that Jun had done something to Sui Seiseki. However, he firmly denied the accusations, saying he was only trying to help her. Not long after, Sui Seiseki felt a portal to the dream world had opened somewhere, which was her power. Not wanting to trouble Shinku and the others, Sui Seiseki secretly went to the warehouse and intended to head to Motoharu's house because she was very sure that the portal was there. However, Jun and the others caught up with Sui Seiseki and decided to help her. Sui Seiseki seemed moved that Jun and the others intended to help her. Together, they then entered the mirror to head to Motoharu's house. Arriving at Motoharu's house, they were surprised to see Motoharu's wife lying in a coma. Sui Seiseki explained to Shinku and the others about Motoharu and why So Seiseki chose to stay by her master's side. After that, they find Motoharu lying unconscious, and a dream world portal appears above him. Seeing a few strands of black fur around him, Shinku realized that Suiginto was the mastermind behind all of this. They then enter a portal that takes them to Motoharu's dream world, which is gloomy and filled with clocks. Sui Seiseki also tried to find the whereabouts of her twin sisters and found her inside a large wall clock. Not long after, the portal that would take them back to the real world suddenly disappeared, meaning they would be trapped forever in Motoharu's dream. At the same time, Suiginto appears and forces Sui Seiseki to hand over her artificial spirit, Sui Dream, to her. However, Shinku came forward to defend Sui Seiseki and did not hesitate to challenge Suiginto to fight with her. While Shinku and Hina are fighting Suiginto, Sui Seiseki heads to Motoharu's soul tree with Jun and So Seiseki to find a way to get them out of there. Looking at the tree, Jun looks surprised because Motoharu's soul tree is so different from his. Sui Seiseki explained that the size of the soul tree is influenced by strong determination and one's emotional bond with others. Because of this, Sui Seiseki tries to find Motoharu's emotional attachment to his loved ones and seeks a way to save him. The three climbed the tree, found a tree branch that had withered, and decided to follow it until they arrived at an empty area, indicating that his heart was empty. So Seiseki then explained about Motoharu, who was very lonely because his wife fell into a coma right after his son died in an accident. Not long after, they met Kazuki in a spirit form, which indirectly revealed that he was the one who had caused his mother to fall into a coma. Kazuki said that he did so to make his mother would not have to feel pain anymore, and they could be together forever. However, Jun, who heard this, told Kazuki that his father in the real world had suffered greatly from losing the two people he loved at once. Kazuki didn't expect his father to suffer so much and seemed to regret his actions. Knowing that Shinku and Hina could not restrain Suiginto, Sui Seiseki then used her Sui Dream to open a portal to the real world. Sui Seiseki manages to return to the real world with Jun and So Seiseki. However, Suiginto was waiting for them and immediately attacked them while urging Sui Seiseki to hand over her Sui Dream. Sui Seiseki then launched a counterattack at Suiginto, but since she didn't have a master, the attack had no effect on Suiginto. Since Sui Seiseki refused to give her Sui Dream, Suiginto then used Lempaka, So Seiseki's artificial spirit that she had captured, to attack Sui Seiseki. However, Jun then stepped forward and protected her. Meanwhile, Shinku and Hina, trapped in a dream world, meet Kazuki, who helps them escape. At the same time, Motoharu finally woke up and was surprised to find Jun and the Rosen Maiden dolls in his wife's room. Motoharu had thought that June intended to take So Seiseki from him. But then, his wife wakes up from a coma and he looks so happy that he forgets his anger. After that, Motoharu no longer addressed So Seiseki as Kazuki because he could finally accept Kazuki's death. On the other hand, Sui Seiseki decides to live with her twin sisters at Motoharu's house, who is now taking good care of them. A few days later, Suiginto enters Shinku's dream and challenges her to a one-on-one duel. Suiginto said they could meet their father, Rosen, by winning the Alice game and becoming Alice fully. Even though Shinku had other thoughts about Rosen, she accepted Suiginto's challenge to end it all so that Suiginto would no longer act arbitrarily towards the Rosen maiden dolls. The next day, Sui Seiseki and her twin sisters visited June's house to play with Shinku and Hina. As usual, Hina gets really noisy when she's playing with Sui Seiseki. However, unlike usual, this time, June looked relaxed and didn't mind it. They play in June's room until finally Nori comes and asks June to help her rehearse the drama. Nori turns out to be staging the drama Snow White at her school. She then asks June to be the prince while Shinku would be Snow White. Hina and So Seiseki become dwarves, while Sui Seiseki will take on the role of the evil queen. At first, the drama rehearsal went well until it reached the final scene, where June kissed Shinku. The commotion started again because suddenly Shinku woke up and kicked June instead. After that, Nori asked the Rosen maiden dolls to take off their dresses because she was going to wash them. Shinku approached June and asked him to sew the buttons on her shirt so it wouldn't come off during the washing. After that, Shinku told about a legendary doll maker named Rosen, who wanted to create a perfect doll dubbed Alice. His attempts were made in 7 sentient beast dolls, which became known as Rosen maidens. The doll's sentient nature is powered by a magical gem called Rosa Mystica. To become Alice, a Rosen maiden must gather all 7 Rosa Mysticas, and this contest is referred to as the Alice game. Each Rosen maiden has a production order, their own personal suitcase, and is accompanied by an artificial spirit that serves the doll. Rosen maidens rely on a contract with a human master to supply themselves with power for battle. Since then, Rosen has foregone a physical body and lives within the end field, waiting for Alice. That's why Suiginto is very ambitious to win the Alice game and collect Rosa Mystica so that she can become Alice and reunite with Rosen. Hearing that, June even felt annoyed that Rosen had indirectly caused a dispute among his puppets and caused them to fight with each other. In the middle of the night, Shinku sneaks out of the suitcase and then kisses June's cheek before she heads to the big mirror to start her fight against Suiginto and end it all. Shinku finally meets Suiginto in her gloomy world full of broken dolls. Knowing that Shinku gains great power from her medium, Suiginto then traps June in his dream, intending to mentally destroy him and his soul tree. When Shinku and Suiginto have a fierce duel, at the same time, June is also battling nightmares and his past trauma of bullying at school. June, who is getting worse and can't distinguish between dreams and reality, indirectly weakens Shinku's strength, so she can only avoid attacks from Suiginto because she can't fight her. Suiginto then urges Shinku to hand over her Rosa Mystica while showing that she has trapped June in the dream world and intends to mentally damage him. Seeing June in a slump, Shinku tried to fight Suiginto to free him. At the same time, Sui Seiseki and So Seiseki, knowing that the portal to June's dream world has been opened, ask Nori to save June through her dream. With Hina's help, Sui Seiseki and her twin sisters can finally enter Nori's dream world, where the 3 of them will save June and Shinku. Not long after, when Shinku was in a state of urgency, Hina finally appeared and immediately used her power to save her. Meanwhile, Sui Seiseki and So Seiseki are climbing Nori's soul tree and trying to find a way to reach June's dream world. The 3 of them finally reach June's dream world and find that June's soul tree has withered, which indicates that June has almost given up on his life and thinks that he is no longer worthy of living in this world. At the same time, Shinku, who managed to dodge Suiginto's attack, reached the portal that led to June's dream world and went inside to save June. However, Suiginto chased after her and tried to block her. When she finally gathers with Nori and the others, Shinku asks Nori to understand the sadness and suffering experienced by June to save him from adversity. After asking Sui Seiseki to take care of June's soul tree, which was about to wither, Shinku then asked So Seiseki to help her fight against Suiginto. Long story short, Nori finally managed to resuscitate June and pulled him down, giving him the spirit to continue living. After knowing that Shinku was fighting with Suiginto, June rushed to find her whereabouts. At the same time, Shinku, involved in a fierce battle with Suiginto, finally managed to overpower Shinku and made one of her arms detach from her body. June, who had just arrived, rushed forward to protect Shinku from Suiginto's next attack. Sui Seiseki and the Rosen maiden dolls appear and then fight against Suiginto, while June takes Shinku to the house he made in a dream. Shinku seemed devastated at losing her arm and was no longer a perfect doll. However, June then encouraged her and promised to fix her arm. When Jun tries to find a piece of Shinku's arm, slowly but surely, the atmosphere in his dream world changes for the brighter because he struggles to help others. Jun finally finds Shinku's severed arm, but Suiginto appears and tries to scare him with his past trauma. For a while, Jun was caught in Suiginto's trap, but because of his strong determination to save Shinku, he was finally able to break free from the trap. Shinku then arrived there, and miraculously, her arms were reconnected as before, which left everyone dumbfounded, as only Rosen should be able to do that. After her body returned to perfection, Shinku again fought against Suiginto with full strength, so Suiginto was overwhelmed because she was just a puppet without a medium, in contrast to Shinku, who had Jun as her medium. When Suiginto started to get pressed, she attacked Shinku with her blue flame power, but Jun came to protect her until the power turned on Suiginto and burned her body. Suiginto may not be a perfect doll, but she has the most sincere feelings for Rosen, making her so ambitious to become Alice and be reunited with her father. After defeating Suiginto, Nori and the others rushed back to the real world, while Jun and Shinku took a few moments to enjoy the dream world, which was slowly changing for the better, as well as his soul tree, which was no longer withering. When Jun returns to the real world, he finds no whereabouts of Shinku and the other Rosen maiden dolls, thinking they have disappeared. Moreover, the rose ring in his hand had also disappeared. Jun's experiences in the dream world are shown to have changed him. He is no longer afraid of the outside world and becomes a stronger person, and can return to school. The anime ends with Shinku and Hina finally returning to the human world and reuniting with Jun. Likewise, Sui Seiseki and So Seiseki visited Jun's house to play with them. The moral that can be learned from this anime is that avoiding problems and withdrawing from relationships is not the right way to heal the trauma we experience. Do not hesitate to ask for help from people we can trust, and always believe that not everyone hates us, and there will always be people who really care and love us for who we are.